Welcome to Apartment Market Dynamics from MPF Research. I'm Jay Parsons, and I'm with Greg Willett, the Vice President for Research and Analysis at MPF Research. And today we're in the fourth part of our six-part series on what to watch for in 2011 in the apartment market. And today we're talking about what state could be a bellwether for the rest of the country, and that state is Texas. Now, we don't mean to pump up Texas egos any further, but as many of you know, Texas was one of the job production leaders in 2010, and most forecasts show that Texas will be among the economic leaders in 2011 as well. And so as we go forward in 2011, some of the indicators that we see in the Texas economic picture could be an indicator for what we'll eventually see for the rest of the country as well. And so let's get started with the job growth numbers that are anticipated for 2011. You see that all of the major Texas markets, Dallas-Fort Worth, Houston, San Antonio, and Austin, we're projecting job growth of at least 3% in all four areas, led by Dallas-Fort Worth, about 87,000 jobs anticipated to be added in 2011. And we're going on down the list: El Paso, McAllen, Corpus Christi, Killeen, Lubbock. Look for lots of job additions everywhere in Texas, lots to like. So, Greg, big job growth, that should mean big housing demand, right?
It should mean some big housing demand, and what will be really interesting as we get into the next year is how that housing demand gets split up, and really whether the apartment sector continues to get more than its fair share of the total housing demand. The recovering economy is really the first step that's needed to get the single-family home market back on track, and at some point confidence will return and the general attitude will go from purchase isn't for everyone to, wow, these are really incredible bargains out there. And when you look at the Texas markets, there's not a big premium to buy versus rent really anywhere except in Austin, and at the same time there's really not much danger of a whole lot of further price depreciation in the Texas markets. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in Texas. It'll tell us a lot as to whether really on a nationwide basis people are going to be willing to make that jump, or are they going to be held back by the fact that they can't afford the down payment, or they just really are not in the market for single family homes.
And Greg, if the rent-to-buy numbers are an indicator of what's to come for the rest of the country, how about apartment supply? We all know Texas likes to build apartments.
Always big construction in Texas. We're not going to deliver a lot of product in 2011 in any of these markets, and we really haven't seen very many starts in the past few months, but at the same time we have seen product announcements start to come back into the picture, and it wouldn't really be surprising if by the time we get to the last half of 2011 we're really seeing quite a few starts in the state of Texas. And once you have that happen really anywhere in just a handful of markets, the finance providers, it's going to be a follow the leader sort of game, and you break the seal and somebody is willing to step out there and start to finance some new properties, and that could trickle over into the rest of the metros across the country pretty quickly.
And Greg, another thing we always look at in the Texas markets is immigration, especially in some key submarkets in the various Texas markets. So what are we looking for in 2011, and what can that tell us about the rest of the country?
You know, it's interesting as we look at immigration. One thing to point out is that we're not just talking about people crossing the border from Mexico into Texas. There was a really interesting recent study where the Texas school systems tried to quantify how many immigrant kids are attending school in the various districts, and some of the really big numbers actually showed up in the suburbs on the north side of Dallas, and those are by and large the kids of tech workers from really all over the planet, and that would be true in Austin as well. So again, you're talking about more than just people coming over the border from Mexico. But looking at that immigration question in general, we do think that there will be some pretty big immigration numbers in 2011. And what we'll be watching there, and what could be a lesson for the rest of the country, is what housing choices do those immigrants make. Jay, in one of the previous videos we talked about shadow market single-family homes offered for rent, and that product actually is a pretty good fit for immigrant households who tend to be a little bit bigger. So it will be interesting to see whether those immigrant households end up in that rental single-family sector or really opt for apartments for the most part.
So Greg, one last question for you. We've talked about how Texas could be a leading indicator for the rest of the country on a number of input factors: job production, the rent versus buy equation, apartment construction, and immigration. But what about the bottom line? Texas markets traditionally lag behind the U.S. norms for occupancy and rent growth. Will that be the case in 2011 and beyond?
Well, Jay, for the most part, the Texas markets are starting from a weakened occupancy position, and that really just reflects that they were the last ones to finish up construction. So that means in 2011, a lot of the growth is still going to occur on the occupancy side with a little bit on rents. That kind of puts the middle of the pack compared to what's happening in the nation overall for the most part.
But could there be some exceptions in that mix?
Absolutely. We do think there will be some exceptions, and that will be one of the things that we're going to talk about in the next couple of videos that we're going to do. One being on the key growth centers for revenue in the major markets, and then we'll follow up with some minor market choices, and there's a Texas market or two on each one of those lists.
So there's your tease for next time. Until then, for Greg Willett and for MPF Research, I'm Jay Parsons. Thank you for watching Apart Market Dynamics.
Want more? Go deeper with NPF Research's apartment market reports. From a national level, down to individual metros, to specific neighborhoods, MPF Research has been providing unparalleled apartment market intelligence to the multifamily industry for almost 5 decades. Learn more by contacting us at 877-284-4938 or visit www.npfresearch.com and click on Market Reports.